are live on YouTube right now. Crystal, you can tell people that they can watch us on there as well.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Somerville Line. We have taken the show on the road. We like to broadcast from different locations, and this evening we're at the West Medford Community Center, personal place because I grew up right in this neighborhood. This evening we have an awesome show for you guys. We have a live audience, which is always exciting, and I'm actually going to turn it over to Mr. Terry Carter, who's going to just start the show off for us. All right?
Do it again, Crystal.
Who's
It's okay.
it? Oh.
Intro.
That was great. Thanks. I'm not going to remember all that. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Somerville Line. We are here on the road. We like to take the show to different locations. This evening, we are here at the West Medford Community Center, which is a very personal place to me because I grew up right in this neighborhood. This evening, we have an awesome show for you. We have a live audience, which is always exciting. And I'm actually going to turn the mic over to Mr. Terry Carter, who's going to start the first half for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. Good evening, everyone, and welcome once again to this third in a series of broadcasts here from the West Medford Community Center. My name again is Terry Carter. I actually manage elder services here for the West Medford Community Center, but I guess I'm a jack of all trades, so I do a little bit of everything or whatever is needed. I want to introduce our guests for the evening and tell you about what we're going to talk about. And we have a very exciting program for you, both in terms of the words component and then in terms of the music component, which is going to take place in about an hour. I want to introduce you to Gary Roberts, Allie Fisk, Sarah Beerson. I'm going to give each of them an opportunity to tell you a little bit about themselves, and then we're going to launch right into a conversation about the vibrancy and dynamic nature of the arts in community. And we'll have a couple of different places that we'll go. And after they introduce themselves, I want to set the mood with a piece of poetry.
Hi, I am Sarah Beardsley. I am an artist as well as the president of the Medford Arts Center, also known as Mackie, and I appreciate you inviting me here today.
Thank you. Allie?
Hi, I'm Allie Fisk, and I'm a Medford resident here. I have numerous roles. I am the business and cultural liaison in the mayor's office here in the city of Medford. Mayor Burke created this role. And I'm also the programs director for the Coalition for Arts, Culture, and a Healthy Economy, CACHE, which is behind events like Circle the Square and the Mystic River Celebration. But I also have a lot of roots here in Medford in terms of working for Spring Step when it used to exist, and my master's is in community arts.
Fantastic. Gary?
Hi everyone, I'm Gary Roberts. I'm a West Medford resident. I'm the chair of the Medford Arts Council. I'm also affiliated with Mass Creative, which is a statewide advocacy nonprofit, and I'm involved with the Society for Arts and Crafts, an organization in Boston.
Fantastic. So you see that we definitely have some expertise here on our panel. I want to take this in a slightly different direction just for a minute, and then we're going to get right on task. But I figured that we're talking about the arts, and that's where the conversation is definitely going to lead. But I always like to go there in the art form that I know best. So I want to share a piece of poetry with you to kind of set the mood. This piece is called Reprise for Poinciana, and it's from the first book of poetry that I've written, which is called Brown Skin and the Bread of Life, A Poet's Journey. So share it with me. Perfect the fantasy in black and tan, between the Savoy Ballroom and the Paris Can-Can. The kind of blue that doesn't get you down, it rather has you twirling round and round and round. Kind of blue, but not really. Like a conversation between Miles and Q in a smoke-filled corner, just them two, talking about the music round midnight. Miles and that miraculous horn, all gravel voice and full of scorn asking Q, what made you feel like doing stuff like that? Jazz finds justice in the majesty of the blues. Take 5 to wonder and you'll know that this is true, deep and delicious all over. Pondered passionately in pianissimo, keeping standard time. Duke's Mood Indigo, Joe Sample's Rainbow Seeker, Errol Garner's Misty, or Worship in the Style of G. Songs you just can't get out of your head, kind of blue, but not really. Just like the woman whose name you call as the autumn leaves begin to fall, or maybe like the melody by Ahmad Jamal, Poinciana. Last day of sun and sand and sea, you and your love and the music made 3. A lyric so familiar, a song so sweet, new tear stains on every page, a bit of your heart in a crystal cage, kind of blue, but not really. You'll remember her most round midnight, Poinciana, fragrant fresh wind recollections, a song reprised, summer breeze. Makes me feel fine, blowing through the jasmine in my mind. Miles and Q in that smoke-filled corner, talking about taking the A train, going up to Small's Paradise. Sassy's gonna be scatting and Hawk's band is in town, doing jazz some real justice. Marvelous, majestic, and kind of blue, but not really. You'll remember her most round midnight. Poinciana, pungent rose petal pictures, a song reprise. The first time ever I saw your face, I thought the sun rose in your eyes. Fantasy, perfected in cocoa and cream. Harlem nights in a Moulin Rouge daydream. The kind of blue that fills your soul, engulfs your spirit, and makes you whole. My Poinciana, I'll remember you most round midnight. Frail fragments of love's fulfillment, kind of blue, but not really. Your song, reprised. Till you come back to me, that's what I'm gonna do. Thank you very much. So hopefully you're in an artistic mood, an artistic frame of mind, an artistic bent by now. So we can go where we were gonna go. All right? Very good, very good. Okay, so I'm doing a little research, trying to get myself ready to come and talk to people who really know what they're doing. So I figured, you know, I'll go through some of the lists of what people think makes art important in terms of community. And I found several. So what I did is I consolidated some of these ideas, and I'm going to frame our conversation, at least in part, in some of these ideas. And I just want to have our panelists talk about the ideas that I'm going to raise. So let me read this first one. Arts promote true prosperity. The arts are fundamental to our humanity. They ennoble and inspire us, fostering creativity, goodness, and beauty. The arts help us express our values, build bridges between cultures, and bring us together regardless of ethnicity, religion, or age. When times are tough, art is a salve for the ache. Sarah, where does that take you?
Oh my goodness, many different places. I really am a full believer in that the arts bring people together. And as you were talking in that quote about being a sense of prosperity, even when times are not so good, it's definitely important to keep in mind that without the arts, so many of our cities, our towns, if you don't have the arts available to you, the whole community suffers. It's a really vital part of any community. And also not just in the general community, but also going all the way down into the school systems. Without having all of the arts in the schools, the children suffer as well. I have actually taught in some of the schools and after-school programs, and I've found that it makes a profound difference with all the children. Switch mics, is that better? It makes a profound difference in the children's lives, and it leaves them wanting more. And I think it's important because no matter whether you're an artist, whether you've never done anything, whether you just want to observe, I think it's an important part of any community to have the availability to it, to keep the community together and stronger, and also more intellectually able to really appreciate things.
Okay, very good, very good. All right, Gary, I want to give you a crack at that.
Sure. So for me, get a little philosophical here. I think the arts very much are about sharing your life, your experience of life, your ideas, your feelings of life with others. That's a fundamental part of it. And at the same time, being open to what others have to share with you. So it's not only a private expression, a private journey, a private experience, but fundamentally it's about being with others.
Excellent, excellent. And Allie?
Actually, I think that what you said is I hear that a lot at this point because you had your poem just now, you read your poem, and I felt like there was a connection in the room that we wouldn't have felt otherwise. And I don't know you very well, but that was kind of a window into you a little bit, and I was able to sort of feel you a little bit there. For me, I think about one of the things you said there about it connecting cultures, connecting people, even when they don't, know one another. I have a new daughter. She's 11 months old, and one of the first things that you see babies do is move, and move rhythmically, and respond to music, and respond to art. And yes, I did introduce that to her. I'm a musical person, but that happens with all babies across the board, no matter where you are in this world. It's one of the first things they learn how to do is be rhythmic and kind of become in tune with their surroundings. So we all share that in that way. It's not something that you have to learn. It's something that's in you. So I think that that is sort of at the core of, I feel like, community arts, is that's where we all come from. So it should be a natural place for us to be able to relate to one another in that way.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, thank you very much. I've also learned in my my research that the arts, and this dovetails into what Sarah was saying, arts improve academic performance. Students with an education rich in the arts have higher GPAs and standardized test scores and lower dropout rates. Benefits reaped by students regardless of socioeconomic status. Students with 4 years or more in music high school average 100 points better on their SAT scores than students with just 1/2 year of arts and music. So Allie, in terms of what we need to be doing in our schools, how is Medford doing so far?
I have to admit that I am, without a child in the school system, I am not as in tune with the education system here and how the arts play a big role. I grew up in Maine and had a very strong arts program in my high school, and I know the importance. But Sarah, it sounds like you might be able to better speak to this question if you don't mind me passing it along to someone who knows more.
So, I'm totally biased. My daughter actually just graduated from the high school this past June. She has been in Medford Public School System from kindergarten all the way up. And, can you hear me? Okay. And I have to say the arts program in Medford is fabulous. We are so blessed to have such a great arts program. Unfortunately, there are many school systems that do not have much of one, if any. And I remember ever since I was a kid too, the first thing that seemed to always get cut if you had budget cuts was the arts. Every single time. Medford hasn't done that. If anything, Medford has grown the arts program. My daughter started violin lessons, actually. Abby child in the Medford school system from grade 4 gets to try violin if they want, or band if they want. And then if they like it, great. If not, then they can go do something else. Plus, there's always, every single child has art classes a couple of times a week, from elementary all the way through middle school. When you get to high school, then you have more choices as to what you can take. But again, the high school has a lot of arts. And I really think that's one of the true gems of the Medford school system, is that the arts program is so prevalent.
Fantastic, fantastic. Gary, from your seat at the Arts Council, have you had collaborative efforts, conversations, etc., that have kind of informed what the Medford Public Schools do in their art offerings?
Yes, so a couple years ago, I was spending a lot of time talking with teachers, especially at the high school, trying to encourage them to continue seeking out grant funding from us. Historically, about 40% of our dollars that we've invested over the last 15, 20 years have gone to programs for Medford children. I think well more than half of all the grants we've ever awarded are for programming for school-age kids. So there's a huge demand in the community. We can see that through our grant program. And we're always looking to have the teachers themselves access some of this public money for their more innovative programming, try to do some new things that might not occur within the classroom setting. Field trips are a big thing that we fund, but there are other kinds of events, clubs, activities that we're very interested in making sure that Medford's teachers are trying out with the help of the funds that we can provide. Courses teaching songwriting, for example, a literary magazine, theater productions, anything we can do to support it, we want to be there.
That's excellent, excellent. I remember my first experience with art and music in the Medford Public Schools is, as you were saying, Sarah, they gave students the opportunity to take instruments home. And a good friend of mine, Jimmy Williams, some folks out here will know him, he got a trumpet, and I wanted a trumpet too. There were no trumpets left, so I got this huge instrument called an alto horn. It was like a small tuba, and it was. First of all, I couldn't blow the darn thing, right? The mouthpiece was really big, and my lips weren't full enough to really blow it. But I tried. But just having that opportunity, just being exposed to, a chance to play an instrument, had a formative effect on me. Now, what I did gravitate more toward was art classes, and so I still draw and paint to this day. In addition to poetry, which was a function of having good English teachers. So yes, Medford Public School, in my eyes, gets high marks as well about promoting arts within the school system. So, arts spark creativity and innovation. The conference board reports that creativity is among the top 5 applied skills sought by business leaders, with 72% saying creativity is of high importance when hiring. The biggest creativity indicator, a college arts degree. Artists are ready to innovate, solve problems. The arts, music, creative writing, drawing, dance, provide skills sought by employers of the 3rd millennium. Nobel laureates and the sciences are 17 times more likely to be engaged in the arts than average scientists. So what's been your experience in terms of the arts as an incubator for creativity and then for doing other things in other fields?
Personally, I've been involved with the arts my whole life, so I was a pretty serious reader and consumer of comic books as a kid. From there, I did drawing my whole life. I still enjoy that. I started getting interested in poetry myself in high school and went on and actually studied it for a doctorate degree. I still write poetry to this day. So, and I've always been interested in the innovation aspects of creative expression, wrestling with the materials of your life, materials of the world, wrestling with words and ideas. What are the sharp corners? What are the things that don't work? there's a tremendous amount of problem solving and discovery that happens just in trying to do something and exceed yourself each time.
I love that. I love that. Allie, would you?
Yeah, I am not an active artist at the moment. I teach music classes for very small little babies. But I think back to when I did used to do songwriting in college, and it's a constant case of problem solving in some ways. Songwriting, visual arts. I am not a visual artist myself, but I would imagine it's very similar in that you don't just create it necessarily in one fell swoop. You really do have to back up and think about it and see what pieces are going together, seeing if your vision is being met. And with me, it's a little bit about, does this chord go with this lyric? Does that feel right? And I feel like there's just a different way of thinking about things when you have that experience. And I do believe that that allows people to be a little bit more thoughtful and innovative in the way they think in life in general. It's not just cut and dry when it comes to the arts. You really do have to, you have to think about it. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So I want to give you a chance to speak on that.
Sure. Well, I've been an artist actually my whole life. I was a music major in college, and I'm now a jewelry designer. But I've found that the arts makes you think outside the box, because you're always creating, no matter what kind of art, whether it's music, whether it's 2D or 3D, whether it's dance, whether it's poetry. I think in some ways arts makes you become wired a little differently, if you will. And so it makes you think in different ways you may not normally have thought before. And I think that's actually a really great skill to have, because it gets you to view the world and view other things in your surroundings in different ways, in ways you may not have normally have done.
One thing I would just say, we all talked about how the arts help you think and problem solve and be innovative that way, but also we were all drawn upon our experience of the arts as something that's really embodied, draws upon all your senses, it draws upon your intuition, sort of other parts of the brain, what's deep in your heart, deep inside you, besides just what you're thinking about or sort of aware of. So I just want to make sure we don't forget that important part too.
If I could add something else
Sure.
as well, and this goes back to the previous question, when we talk about arts in education, arts in professional development, there is something called arts integration, which is the concept of incorporating art into non-arts topics, like sciences, for instance, English. And I was at my college program really did try to focus on making sure that the students were, learning the topics, but trying to incorporate art in the process, because some people learn better that way. And I think that that is also a big part of education in the school system. It's not just, okay, well, we're going to have a science class, and now we're going to go, have an art class, let's go back to science. It really is about incorporating it all together, which I think plays a role as well in that kind of innovative thinking that we're hoping, students are developing.
Absolutely, I agree. So, this one is particularly near and dear right now, because I think we're experiencing in some ways in this country a disconnect from each other based on politics and other things that just seem to be making people think in ways that are not conducive to community. But the arts promote empathy. The arts allow humans to understand emotions and experiences that one may never have had the chance, fortune, or even misfortune to experience within their lifetime. Aristotle once said, "We need art because we have not lived enough." Art allows us to acquire experiences that our own lives could never provide. The arts are a way for people viewing, touching, and experiencing a work to empathize with the artist and the artist's environment at the time of the creation. So, that's kind of a personal piece. So if you could maybe reflect on a personal opportunity that you've had to use the arts to empathize or deal with sympathetically with the condition of another person.
I have to think about that in my own personal. Certainly, I know that when I have been performing concerts, for instance, and as an artist, I tend to kind of get swept up and lost in what I'm doing. Kind of a high, I guess you could say, in a way, artistic high. I always actually tell any of my friends, so if I'm crabby, it's probably because I haven't done anything creative today. And it's, so when I'm in a, doing a performance, a musical performance, it can kind of feel that, at least I feel that I'm touching the audience. And even though I'm playing a musical instrument, or sometimes I'm singing, there's a relationship that you get. You may not be necessarily talking with a person or playing for one particular person, but there's that relationship. So I think it's kind of a deep thought, I guess, what I'm saying, but you do produce relationships just by the art that you are making or anything you're performing. At least that's how I feel.
I agree. Personal aspect.
These are hard.
I know.
I feel like I haven't thought this hard in so long. I'm gonna go to bed and sleep really well tonight. I think, I guess, could you repeat to me exactly the prompt again?
Well,
if you don't mind?
we're looking at how the arts allow us to empathize.
Right. So I think the most recent example was not my own art making, but there was, some of you may be aware, there was a really incredible program that's happened here in Medford recently called the Lakota Youth Stay Program. There were some 10 youth from the Pine Ridge Reservation it's a Native American reservation in South Dakota. It's an incredibly disadvantaged community with a high poverty rate. And 10 youth came over here for a youth stay program managed by the Sanctuary UCC, and part of the project, which was actually in part funded by the Medford Arts Council, was they did a photo documentary of their time here. They had a tremendous amount of experience and, you know, went on whale watches and got to meet with other Native American communities, and they documented their time. And they took photos, and then it was on exhibit. And it's actually moving to City Hall now, the exhibit, which is great. And so you get to see their trip through their eyes. I can't say that I can't feel what they feel in this, but I at least get a window into it and can see what their experience was and how they chose to capture it. So I encourage people to take a look at it when it comes to City Hall. It's actually a really great exhibit and showcases a lot of the humor also that they found in the trip and how they connected with one another and with this area and their host families as well.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Gary, you want to take a crack at that?
Sure. I think I'll share two examples from the world of poetry. So about 4 years ago, I got a lot interested in a French poet of the 20th century by the name of Pierre Reverdy. And he started out in the early part of the 20th century writing some pretty avant-garde poetry, never left that style, was always looking for ways to do things differently. And in World War II, by that time, he had moved to the countryside and started writing a book called translated The Song of the Dead, which was published in 1948. And I'm not super proficient in the French language, but I was just doing this really more as an intellectual exercise to try to render some of these poems in English. And as I started getting into them, struggling with them, it just opened up for me just the incredible power of this literature of witness. We tend to think of the arts as wanting to be encouraging, to give us hope. This was the opposite. This was not an art of hope. This was an art of despair. And at that same time as I was working on those poems, very much in my mind was the experience of the people in Syria, the tremendous displacement and suffering at the level of that was the kind of thing that was informing this writer's book. And so it was very powerful for me. I felt that that was a motivation and a drive for me to discover what this book and this strange language was all about. And I went the distance. I was like, I'm gonna go wherever this takes me. I spent a lot of time rendering these poems in English, and I think the ability to empathize with the situation that this writer was in really made the poems better for me. They drew out my ability to do my best by them. More recently, just a couple weeks ago, following the events in Charlottesville, I write these little haiku right now as kind of the form I'm practicing. And I was on the shuttle bus from North Station to where I work at MIT, and I was just thinking, how can these tiny poems of nature really engage with this event? For me, that form of haiku in my own practice right now is sometimes it's about going after something, and sometimes it's about waiting and being surprised and letting it sort of magically come upon you. So I was sitting in the bus looking out the window, and I was like, I can't write about Charlottesville with this form. It's just not, they're incompatible. And right at that moment, I looked out the window and saw something, which then I finished writing the poem in the 5-10 minutes that was left on my ride. And so I'll just tell it to you. Again, haiku are very short. You may be familiar with this form. It's a very popular form that was brought over from Japan about 100 years ago to English-speaking countries. 3 lines of 17 syllables total, so 5, 7, 5. So hopefully I can remember my own poem. Here we go. Thinking about us when a goldfinch landed on the purple coneflower. So for me, the surprise of that moment, I felt was revealing to me of a different way to connect to the world when I was feeling a little bit alienated from it.
Fantastic, fantastic. I'm going to share my statement as well. Almost 2 years ago now, my dad passed. It's actually almost 3 years now because it was 2014. My dad passed, and the family, we wanted to, do the memorial, the service ourselves, and so I was, pressed into, writing. I did, the eulogy, and I wrote a piece about him, and it gave me a chance. I hadn't done it for some years, but it gave me a chance to once again kind of walk in his shoes. And there were some serious, serious shoes to fill. Most of you that are from the West Medford community, maybe even some of you that are Greater Medford, knew my father. He was a plasterer and, did all kinds of different odd jobs and things for the people in this community. And if you go into most of the houses in West Medford, there's probably still some evidence of my father having been there, whether it's a ceiling or some tile work or some light carpentry or, maybe even, an electrical circuit that got wired up. Vonnie was there. So writing about him, especially poetically, gave me a chance to walk again in his shoes. And I think that's the key here, is that as we, look out artistically, it gives us an opportunity to create opportunities for us ourselves to walk in the shoes of people that we know, people that we don't know but are experiencing for the first time, such as you with the French poet and him relating, the Syrian condition, and you having an opportunity to, really kind of empathize with that condition through translating his poems, and you, Allie, feeling, living vicariously to a certain extent through what those Lakota Sioux children were doing when they were here, and you, as you're in performance, having the opportunity to kind of feel what the audience is feeling and take them along with you on the journey that you're trying to go on. So I think that really is one of the things that's central to building community with the arts, is that ability to build empathy and for us to walk in each other's shoes and experience the life that we're, we have in common, but it's very uncommon because we're each living it out a different way. Okay, so the arts have social impact, and that's really important right now. University of Pennsylvania researchers have demonstrated that high concentration of the arts in a city leads to higher civic engagement, more social cohesion, higher child welfare, and lower poverty rates. A vibrant arts community ensures that young people are not left to be raised solely in a pop culture and tabloid marketplace. So it's a real strong statement, and I would just like to know kind of what experience you've had that that's the truth.
I mean, all of your questions sort of keep coming back to the same things about the arts bringing us together. So the Medford Arts Council, like the Somerville Arts Council, like the 329 cultural councils in Massachusetts, they're all about making the arts happen, the humanities happen in communities. They're all about making sure that there's funding, basically money, to help people in their own neighborhood, in their own town square, realize the promise of these social benefits, to have that impact, transforming lives, giving people access. So access is a huge thing for the Medford Arts Council and all our counterparts across the Commonwealth. I visited 2 summers ago the Senior Center, Medford Senior Center, to check out one of the grants that we had given out to a woman who was bringing in a new approach to sewing and quilting for the visually impaired. And to watch those women primarily who were, had very little other opportunities to practice their creativity, be able to do beautiful things together with the help of these materials and this approach that our public funding helped make happen was just really something to see. And I could tell you, 10 other stories about that. Certainly the tremendous work that Cachet does in Medford, West Medford Open Studios. I mean, those are the embodiment of the promise of the arts. And I'm so fortunate that we get to fund them year after year.
Excellent. We're going to go there, actually, West Medford Open Studios and Cachet, a little bit later if we have time. But Allie, I want to give you an opportunity coming from the city's perspective.
Yeah. Well, I want to kind of talk a little bit about what vibrant means, because you said, vibrant community, vibrant city. And vibrant means different things to different people, but what I see and what many people see is people coming downtown, people patronizing restaurants and local businesses, seeing public art, seeing live performances, having something to do every day, having a place to go, being able to connect with others. That's what I see as vibrant. And I think that from the city's perspective, there's been a lot of work done. We really focus on all the squares in Medford, but the Metropolitan Area Planning Council has been helping the City of Medford and the Mayor's Office on a study of really how to revitalize Medford Square, which has so much potential. And one of the big pieces of that, and the study has, the results have come out, the report's going to be presented in a couple of weeks, but the executive summary really focuses on making sure that there are opportunities for people to have creative experiences together. We broke ground on the new Riverside Plaza across from CVS. That is a space that's going to be about creating art together, experiencing art. There's going to be a stage, and so that's an example that you see in other communities of when you have a gathering space like that where people can come together and experience creativity, that can really kick off that vibrancy that I'm talking about. Chevalier Theater also, very excited to say that there's a new management company that's coming in. The Chevalier Theater's there's been wonderful things that have happened there. This management company is really going to kind of take it up a notch in terms of the amount of stuff that's happening there and the scale. And the hope is that, people coming to the Chevalier Theater and experiencing it will go to local businesses. They'll come to other events. They'll go to Circle the Square. They will really feel connected to Medford, and it really can come alive, and arts play a gigantic role in that process.
Fantastic, fantastic. Did you want to?
Yeah, please. So community involvement is what Medford Arts Center is all about. Besides being a group of an organization for artists so we can help support each other, we have a lot of programs out there. The two big mainstays that we have now are the Mystic Makerspace, which happens to be at the Medford Public Library. You can go in, you can register for classes. They're all free for the most part. You know, we ask for a donation if you're able to, just so we can, to pay for materials and to help keep the programs running. But there's everything from bike repair to sewing to, you name it, it's there. And it's for the whole community, and it's definitely growing, which is a really exciting thing.
And partly funded by the Medford Arts.
Of course, of course it is.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, and the other program that we just literally launched and rolled out literally in June, also hugely funded by the Medford Arts Council, is MARV, the Medford Arts Resource Vehicle. It's a bus, it's a half-size school bus that you can't miss it if you see it riding by because it's an aqua blue. We had one of Medford's art teachers actually won the prize for the design contest for the outside. And some of her elementary school children had some input on it, so it was like a whole exciting community involvement just from that. But the whole idea of the bus is to bring art to the whole community where the art isn't. So especially to people who do not have any exposure to the arts, because we believe it's really important that everyone has exposure no matter what age, etc. It's a really important thing. So it's definitely what the Medford Arts Center is all about. We really want to get the art out into the community and have people enjoy it and participate as much as they want to.
Fantastic, fantastic. So we're going to play a little bit of institutional word association, okay? And this will give everybody a chance to kind of, if they've got a horn to toot, they can toot their own horn. Okay, so Gary, I'm going to start with you because you kind of went there a little bit. West Medford Open Studios.
I just think it's one of the premier programs in Medford. I live in this neighborhood. I staff the tables for the Arts Council at the Brooks School. I live tweet West Medford Open Studios to be able to go into the homes and share what people from here and around, not just Medford, but the area are doing. It's just so much fun and a great experience.
Fantastic, fantastic. You have a word to say about that?
Awe-inspiring. I've been actually an artist in there for 9 years now. I've been doing open studios, and when I say awe-inspiring, it's just incredible to see what all the other artists create. Whether it's visual, whether it's oral, whether it's written word and oral at the same time, plus the whole community comes out. So, and it happens in the springtime, so it's just after winter and everyone's coming back out and you see people you haven't seen in a long time, and it's wonderful, and it is really awe-inspiring because there's nothing else like it.
What I like about open studios is that you're not just seeing art on the walls of a gallery, you actually get to go to where the art is being created, which I think is really unique. So that's what I love about it, is that kind of that experience of being able to actually be in the artist's space and see what inspires them.
It's been back here for the last 2 years, after maybe a hiatus of many years, and it's just been a fantastic experience. We haven't yet gotten to that place where we're quite filling the room like we're filling it now. So we're looking forward to that happening as we progress. But this past summer, or spring actually, we had the artwork of Hilton Parham adorning the wall. And he is over 90, he's still painting. I think he's in the process of, if he hasn't already gone, moving from his home in Brockton to Arizona. But his artwork was stunning. We had the ladies who knit here every Thursday displaying their knitting. We had an artisan baker here with cupcakes and cookies to die for. Had a little poetry. It was really, really sublime to be in the West Medford Community Center, which is now adorned by so much history. The Elder Project along the top portion of the wall, and the Afro-American Remembrance Project, which is all over the place. And to have all of that art and all of that creativity in this space at the same time was just amazing. So when you hear about West Medford Open Studios, go everywhere, but make sure you come to the community center because we'll have something special going on here. And well, at least if I have anything to say about it. Okay, so cachet. Take it.
I can take this one, guys.
Handle your business.
So Cachet is the Coalition for Arts, Culture, and a Healthy Economy. It was founded by a woman named May Markabreck, who is fantastic and at the time was in her 70s and had this vision for organizations coming together and working together. We have so many great arts and cultural organizations in Medford, and the idea was to draw them together and say, what can we do as a coalition? And so out of that came the Mystic River Celebration, which is a one-day arts festival at the Condon Shell, September 23rd. Be there. And then Arts Across Medford is a month of events throughout October, ranging from theatrical performances to visual arts exhibits. Mystic Makerspace is doing an event, funded by the Medford Arts Council, of course. And then Circle the Square, which many people know is the downtown street festival that happens in Medford Square. And Cachet's goal is not just about highlighting the arts in Medford and giving people an opportunity to experience that, but to show the connections between the arts and the business community as well. And that's a big part of Circle the Square, is saying, you know, people are coming to the square to experience these arts experiences, but while they're here, let's see if they can get into some of these local businesses as well. So I could go on. I'll stop.
Fantastic, that's fantastic. Anyone else a word on Cachet?
Sure. I'll just say, I think Allie's being maybe even too modest. Cachet benefits thousands of people in Medford, and it's just incredible that that organization in less than 10 years has done so much to bring vital activities to Medford Square and other parts of the city. I staffed Circle the Square tables many times. I mean, the chance to be there to talk about what we do, to expose people to the benefit of the public investment in the arts and culture community locally is you know, it makes it all worth it.
Fantastic.
May I say something else?
Please.
I just want to mention also Cachet's big thing, arts and cultural calendar. On our website, there's an arts and cultural calendar. Every month there's about 40, 50, sometimes 60 events that are listed because there's something happening in Medford all the time and people just don't know about it. So you can go on the website and you can see there's a lot of stuff happening in Medford.
Okay. So Cachet, C-A-C-H-E, you can Google it, okay? Find out what's going on and patronize local art and culture in the city of Medford. Did you want to add something?
Yes, as Allie had mentioned, Cachet really is an overarching organization, and Mackey is also one of those organizations that Cachet helps with. In fact, we're working on another event called that we co-sponsor called the Artistry of Wine, which is we had in March, and we're going to be having again in December at Atlas Liquors. So keep your eyes open for it. There's going to be wine and beer tastings, food, of course, and art. Lots of art.
Fantastic, fantastic. So I want to go back to a few questions as we, continue. What do you each, in the different capacities that you're working in the arts community, find most difficult about arts advocacy?
I'll just start. I think that in my experience doing art advocacy in Medford, there are so many dimensions to Medford as a city. When I was recruiting members for the Medford Arts Council, we're still looking for volunteers if people want to join our cause. When I was promoting our grant program, it seemed like week after week, day after day, week after week, there would be new neighborhoods, new practitioners, new groups that didn't know about our work. We didn't know that they were here in the city. The richness and the diversity in Medford is both an incredible opportunity, but it's quite challenging for a small group of volunteers to get out of their own network and get further and further into the community to make people aware of what we can do for them.
That's fantastic, Gary. As the city's advocate in this area, how has it been challenging for you?
So I've been in the position as the business and cultural liaison for a little over a year. And the advocacy really, I'm familiar with it from the other end. The Medford Arts Council gets their funding from the state. And many years ago, that was the only place they were getting it from. And through a tremendous amount of advocacy, the state decided to not only match the state's funding, but it's at $30,000 now. The state's funding is $20,000, and Mayor Burke honors that as well and continues that. And the advocacy in Medford has been really tremendous. In terms of, going back to what Gary had said, I think that you're absolutely right. This is a very large city. Even though it feels rather small sometimes, trying to reach everybody, and it can be challenging, but the other piece is, I think everyone has their own idea of what the arts are. And some people think that arts belong in a gallery or on a wall, or they don't realize that everything around them is art in a lot of ways. I think it's trying to connect with people, and advocating for the arts it's challenging when you're not talking the same language about what arts are. And I see arts as kind of a holistic community experience, and some people see it as, paint on a canvas. Yeah.
Very good, Sarah.
I'm hearing a theme here, and I agree. One of the biggest challenges that, as an artist and as an arts organization, is getting the word out. It's always been that way, unfortunately, and I don't think it's also just a Medford thing. I think it is a societal issue. And not to knock us, but in Europe, people go out in droves to see art, and they are seeking art and seeking out different arts experiences, whatever they may be, constantly. In the United States, our culture is just totally different. We have the arts as part of everything else. Sadly, I wish it was more like Europe in that it was easier to go out there and say, hey, this is going on, come, and everyone gets on board and everyone's excited about it and really wants to go and hear more about the arts. But it's definitely, unfortunately, a struggle. But, we keep powering through and keep putting the word out there, and of course with Cachet's listing of all the arts events, that definitely is a huge help. So that's one certain place that everyone can go and look to see what's going on.
I'd just like to amplify a little bit about this point of how our society values the arts. You know, most of us in the room, I'm sure, have no problem believing that the arts, the humanities are essential to life. I think there are other parts of our country, our neighborhoods, our city, our fellow citizens who see them in a different way, as being expendable, nice to have, luxury items. I think we have a lot of work to do just to continue to explain why the arts are essential.
Right.
Fantastic, fantastic. I'm gonna say one thing, and this is gonna be the last word on it, and I certainly appreciate everything that you brought to the table, Sarah and Gary and Allie, this evening. It's been fantastic. The arts foster community building, and they create a positive social environment. The power of the arts to sponsor collective efficacy in communities that participate in artistic activities, we think is obvious. People are proven to become dedicated to others and the community that surrounds them when the arts are involved. The quality of life becomes top priority. The arts don't just bring people together with similar interests, but they make them care about each other. We care about you. We hope that you cared about us tonight. So on behalf of the West Medford Community Center, Somerville Community Access Television, and the Somerville Line, that's all we have for you tonight, folks. Come back and see us. The musical portion is about to begin. They're going to take a few minutes to break it down and get things straightened out, and then you're going to be in for a performance that you didn't expect, but will definitely enjoy. Thank you and good evening.